Bills fans, what's up? It's been forever and a day since I've done one of these. You know how it is. I take a little hiatus. I shouldn't have, especially during this time, but if you follow me on IG or Snapchat, I've just, like most of us, just crazy fucking work. Crazy, crazy work. And it's finally settled down a bit, and I've had some getting a little free time, which feels good, especially during summer. It's been humid as hell, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about our Bills, our beloved football team, and all the recent stuff that's been going on, particularly the Corey Coleman trade. It's the first time that the quarterbacks, yesterday, that the quarterback wasn't, late yesterday, that the quarterback wasn't the story of the day. But even prior to that, the Benjamin comments to Tim Graham in the Athletic, the return of Zay Jones to practice, then late last night getting wind of the Corey Coleman trade via Adam Schefter, and today finding out it was only for a seventh round pick in 2020. I mean, wow, that just made too much sense for the Bills. And there's been some people, maybe national people or bloggers or whatever, throwing shade on it. Like, are you nuts? How could you not? I mean, imagine us as Bills fans haven't seen another team like, I don't know, the Seattle Seahawks or somebody of that ilk, and it would have been spun as a good trade because of their quarterback situation and their success, or the Patriots for that matter. Oh, finally they'll unlock Colvin's potential. Well, we would have heard things like that. But being that it's the Bills, it's like, we know what happens with that. But yeah, it just made too much sense. It really, and who knows what's going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to work out for the best, but it's a really low rent, potential high reward trade, and it really, really works out for the Bills. I remember the Bills traded a 6th round pick in the next year's draft for Mike Williams and only got like 8 catches and a touchdown. And trading, I think that same season they had traded a 4th the next year for Bryce Brown, and he was inactive a lot of games and basically lost in the game in Kansas City against in Buffalo with that fumble at the goal line. So, wow, this is just it's a real win-win, and it just continues to show Bean really has a pulse on value and what he is willing to do and how patient he is and mindful and tactful he is when it comes to trades and being able to get the most value. And it's really, really finally encouraging to say, again, I'm not saying this trade is going to work out, but for a 7th round pick in 2 years, I mean, who's going to miss it? That's something you could recoup like that via compensatory picks. So there you have it. Really, really slots the receiving core nicely, and we haven't even played a preseason game yet. They haven't even played a preseason game yet. It's so much more yet to be determined. And I'm going to my first Bills game in a week and a half in Cleveland, and I get to see Josh Allen in person, Baker Mayfield, Tyrod Taylor, and Corey Coleman all in the same place at once. That should be interesting. I mean, how can I not pick that game to go to with all those permutations? And even though it's a preseason game, the seats are great. They were not expensive. I have a friend who works for JetBlue, got me a buddy pass, so it really, really worked out. And then I'll be in Buffalo the next week for the Bengals game, so maybe I'll get to meet some of you guys. That would be really, really fun. But outside of that, what's been the topic? Quarterback, quarterback, quarterback. It's always going to be quarterback, and it's pretty much the waiting game for Josh Allen. That's what this quarterback battle is to me. It's not like the quarterback battle of 10 where it was this fake competition between Trent Edwards, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Brian Brom, where it was pretty much predetermined Trent was going to get it until he was just lost his starting job after the Green Bay game where he ran out of bounds rather than throw an interception. At the end of the game where they were losing miserably, I think it was like 31-3, and then was pretty much released on a Tuesday after losing his job. I think the Bills had just played a game in New England, and Fitz played okay in that game. Had his typical Fitz game, made some nice plays, threw some interceptions, but they lost. And not like the one in 15 where it was a pretty much not a very inspired competition, a a fractured EJ Manuel, an enigma in Tyrod Taylor, and a known commodity, but kind of a bland Matt Castle. With this, we have three guys who are hungry to try to win this job, who are still young in their career, still fresh. I mean, AJ McCarron went through some rigors to try to become an unrestricted free agent instead of a restricted free agent where he would have had to sit for another year, be a backup behind Andy Dalton. And this is his opportunity. Same thing with Nathan Peterman. The staff has shown faith in him today. He supposedly had his best practice, which is good. I want to hear about all these quarterbacks playing well, particularly Josh Allen, of course. And the really, really encouraging thing, every practice we hear about him making a wow, or whether it's a wow play, we hear things like, oh, the other quarterbacks can't do that. Not only can't they do that, can they not do that, they won't even attempt it. And you see the signs of why he is what he was touted to be, the big stud quarterback, potential, maybe could have been first overall pick the year prior. So a lot of talk of him being the first overall pick this year. Of course, me included was very skeptical with the stats of completion percentage and whatnot. We've all had that talk, and it's kind of worked itself in, and this is something else I'm going to talk about. It's kind of gathered steam where it seems like it's Josh Allen against the world, and we've kind of rallied around as Bills fans and said, well, it's Josh Allen and us against the world. It's all the naysayers, all these stat sheet scouts on Twitter, and the bloggers and the Bleacher Report people and the Pro Football Focus people, and all these types that are kind of geeks with stat sheets and spreadsheets that basically don't, I don't mean to sound rude or anything like that. They don't have an ounce of athleticism in their body, and just they want to cast the swift gavel of judgment before this kid's ever put on pads and cleats for a first NFL game. I wouldn't do that to any player. I mean, yeah, it's nice to stand up high on the pulpit and say, hey, we were right about this guy and that guy. I mean, I've been there and done that, but let's see. But again, every practice we hear about him doing some things that just that are eye-popping. That is not something we heard about from EJ Manuel ever. And I don't mean to just say that because he's gone and kicked dirt on him and stuff. That's just something I never recall happening. I never recall hearing about these wow moments in practice and these things. It's like, wow, this is why they picked him. This is why there was, and that's really, really encouraging. And his ability to be able to improv, ad lib, and make crazy plays on the run with his size, break out of sacks, I think is going to get him in that lineup starting sooner rather than later. I really think that's the way it's going to go. Not having had a game be played yet in the preseason, it seems like it's AJ McCarron's job to lose. Again, seems, but again, yet to be determined. We'll see once these games start how the cookie crumbles, and it's even close. If it's even close, I think they would roll with the rookie and say, hey, let's just do this. And you got to remember, they benched Grant. Tyrod wasn't their guy. Nate Peterman was. They benched him in the middle of a playoff run. They reinserted him, but still shows what they're willing to do. They're loaded for bear next year in the draft, so let's see what happens. But now, with that out of the way, we're gonna just hear about these quarterbacks, and we all know it's eventually Josh Allen's job. Until we all get the Twitter notification, Sean McDermott steps to the podium and says, we're starting Josh Allen. We get the notifications, or we start to see the leaks on Twitter. And again, we haven't seen many leaks. I mean, the Coleman trade came out of nowhere. No, there was not one leak, not one little bit of anything. So this organization has now become, watertight, airtight, and it's a far cry from what it was before, where it was a leaky vessel indeed. Some other little spatterings of stuff that's going on. The new facility, 25,000 square feet. Just a huge addition to One Bills Drive at Pro Training Center. They're going to just renovate the entire sports science, sports med, strength and conditioning area. It's going to be a big center. 25,000 square feet is not small by any means, and they want it ready in April of 19, right when, you know, all the guys come back for the off-season program. And again, it sounds weird, but players love new things. They love new facilities. New things matter. And just not 5-6 years ago, the Bills had some of the most Spartan, sad, antiquated facilities, football facilities, whether it was weight room, recovery, you name it. Even the stadium hadn't been upgraded. It was in some cases dilapidated, till now where everything is up, freshened up, modern, state of the art, and even cases superseding and surpassing a lot of other places. And that's another thing that's really, because players want to be a part of that. Rightly, or people say, well, we'll scoff at that. They do. They want to be associated with that. It's not Buffalo. It was everything that was going on there. It wasn't Buffalo. There's nothing wrong with Buffalo. I know, even me as a Bills fan, sometimes I get that chip on my shoulder, you know, and poke my chest out. It's like, you know, but no. And that's a great thing. I can't wait to see the completion of this place, because anybody who knows me, again, who follows me on social media, knows how big I am into that community of nutrition, exercise, fitness, sports science, like all the functional movement, how that's a huge passion of mine. And I just cannot wait to see the new amenities that they open up there, and all the stuff that they're going to offer to these players now. And then they're going to have all this money for free agency and people coming in. I think they'll be very mindful with it. But again, another attractive chip to use in that venture. So exciting times, in my personal opinion, exciting times. The wide receiver battle, now that Coleman's inserted, Zay's back practicing, everybody kind of gets, you know, the pecking order kind of gets reshuffled a little bit. Guys like Robert Foster, who shined early, are now falling now that the pads are on. You know, the legs are maybe getting heavy. The talent is getting a little tighter. Maybe things are getting chippy. Haven't seen another team yet. Haven't heard much of Brandon Riley. He's a big Bills fan's favorite. Heard a lot of Cam Phillips. Heard that name a lot, but he's been out of practice a couple of days with a tight groin. Ray McLeod seems to make a play here or there, particularly deep from Josh Allen the last few practices. They had some red zone work. He caught a touchdown from him today. Haven't heard anything from Austin Froll. Who knows? He looks like a guy who's slated for the practice squad, in my opinion anyway. So this battle, again, and nobody really other than Coleman via trade added waivers, roster cut downs, how that stuff goes. So that group is, again, like a lot of things with the Bills, yet to be determined. Defensive line rotation. Deep is a position there is on the roster. All of a sudden that was pretty thin last year is now a pretty big strength, in my opinion. And a guy like Shaq Lawson, who seemed like he was getting lost in the shuffle. Trent Murphy, has a tight groin, missed like 3 practices. And from all accounts, Lawson has really stepped it up and played well in those practices. A lot of batted passes I see. Got to the quarterback a few times. Granted, there's no tackling or anything like that, so who knows if the sacks would have come to fruition. Maybe the quarterback could have escaped. Maybe, Lawson couldn't secure the tackle and it would have been cleaned up by another defender. Who knows? But still, it's encouraging to see, because the deeper that position is and that whole unit, they've said that they want to rotate those guys, a heavy D-line rotation, and keep those guys fresh. And a rookie that we've heard amazing things about, obviously, is Horrible Harrison Phillips. He's a guy that seems like he's destined just to, eventually be a starter here in no matter of time. They seem to be proceeding as if they want to keep Kyle Williams not only healthy but fresh as possible. That's where Starr comes in. Phillips comes in, a big body like John Hughes, who they signed. And we'll see where the rest of that unit shakes out. Even Adolphus Washington said to be having a solid camp. So we'll see how. I think they'll probably keep 9 anywhere between 9 to 10 defensive linemen. But the linebackers seem pretty set. Sans, the depth, the secondary is pretty much locked in except nickel, which is a big position. And maybe that's a position they looked at if they're not comfortable with Teron Johnson or Philip Gaines. Maybe that's a position they look to add to the big safety position that they have, that package where they use 3 safeties. Who knows who wins that? It's been Raphael Bush. Maybe Saran Neal comes in. Again, I'm touching a lot of stuff here, but we'll see how that all shakes out. Oh, and wide receivers, I forgot about Jeremy Curley. He's pretty much entrenched in there right now too. So again, the Rod Streeter also. So that group is pretty okay, right? It's okay. It's okay. It's not, what it was when Zay wasn't practicing. Granted, Zay needs to string some weeks together here in a couple of preseason games and put his best foot forward. And a couple of guys need to start breaking away from the pack. They really need to start breaking away. Because I don't think anybody, sans a couple of guys, are locks. Given all the Bills have done backing Zay Jones after having embarrassed himself and the organization in LA, and just keep putting their backing behind him, and every time they're interviewed and asked about him, I think he's pretty much safe to make the team. Coleman, with the trade, provided he keeps his nose clean, catches on, provides them something nobody else in the roster does, I think he stays. A former first-round pick with 2 to 3 controllable years at a nominal price tag, I think he stays. I think Benjamin stays also. Potentially another guy that could just franchise, have another controllable year. So the rest is pretty much up in the air. But all right, Bills fans, you have a good one. Take care. And also, do you think this can be a top 10 defense? I think it has the potential, and it definitely can, because Tremaine Edmunds, who I haven't even talked about, is just, you hear from players, you hear from coaches, you hear from media, this guy is the real deal, and he's a linebacker unlike anything the Bills have ever had, and he's in the middle of our defense now, and I can't wait to see him out there flying around making plays. All right, guys, you have a good one. Take care. Early in the week, hope you guys have a good rest of the week. Enjoy, and let's see what happens once they start firing up the preseason against the Panthers. Go Bills. Have a good one, guys.